Good afternoon from wherever you're joining us from, and welcome to the fourth and final episode of our series, Classic Strategies, Modern Techniques. My name is Gabe Keeler from Evalueserve, and today we'll close out this journey by turning our gaze forward. So over the past few episodes, we've explored how blending human insight with AI can enhance strategic marketing and intelligence. Today, we're going to focus on what's next. How do we future-proof our own strategies? Avoid dependency traps, continue to evolve in a world that isn't slowing down. And fortunately, I'm joined by my co-host today, Jim Donohue. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Gabe. Thanks for having me. It's been a fantastic series so far, Gabe. And honestly, what I think makes this finale really exciting is that it's not just wrapping up ideas, we're expanding upon them. This is about building enduring, adaptive strategies for what's coming.
Absolutely. Well, Jim, I want to kind of build on something you just mentioned there, right? You've surely seen a lot of frameworks over the years, and surely a number of technology and hype cycles. So I'm just curious, in your view, what really makes a marketing strategy or insight strategy resilient in today's world?
Great question, Gabe. I think that a resilient strategy is one that can bend without breaking. It's built on the fundamentals, a clear value proposition, a deep understanding of your customer, and I can't emphasize that enough, but it's also modular. You've got to be able to plug in a new tool or pivot the messaging quickly if the environment changes. AI is part of that, but so is scenario planning, continuous learning, and cross-functional alignment. The most resilient teams I've worked with weren't afraid to test, fail, and realign quickly.
No, totally makes sense. So look, I want to build on that point, right? You mentioned efficiency. I feel like we've talked about that quite a bit throughout this entire series. But maybe in this last episode, we can divert a little bit and talk a little bit about imagination and creativity, right? So I'm just curious, because I'm hearing a lot of use cases right now in the industry about this. Where have you seen technology play more of a role in terms of creativity, or let's say new capability generation, versus just being focused on productivity?
Yeah, Gabe, absolutely. Some of the most interesting uses I've seen for AI aren't the typical just simply replacing a task. They're about unlocking new directions. A strategist might ask, what if we reframe this offer from an ESG perspective? Or what if we localize this offer in a way that's never been done before? AI can generate dozens of starting points in seconds. But crucially, it's the human imagination that asks the right questions. That's where the magic lives. You've got to train your teams not to just use the tool, but to ask better questions of it and really probe it to give you the most resilient answers that you can.
Very, very interesting. Yeah, I've seen some similar such use cases, especially in kind of the marketing domain, right? Asking some of the right questions to come up with creative concepts, right? And I think it's also now coming on board in the more on the consumer product side when we talk about research and development, leveraging generative AI as an accelerator in terms of coming up with new product concepts. So it's very, very fascinating how it's being used for creativity now and not just, let's say, process automation.
Yeah, and it's so easy to do. It's so easy to expand and try out those different things. You just ask the right questions of the tool and just keep probing it over and over again until you really get some useful information out of it.
Nice. Yeah, fully agree. I think it's a lot about asking the right questions, as you mentioned, and I think this leads into something that we had talked about covering in this episode, which is kind of the people side or the talent side. So much of it now is about, people really understanding how to use that technology and creating that kind of multidisciplinary approach. It's sort of this age-old thing. The marketer that is AI enabled is going to far surpass, the pure artistic, non-technology enabled marketer. What are your views on that?
Yeah, I agree 100%, Gabe. You want marketers who understand data enough to question it. You want analysts who are able to tell stories and get their message across. And you want leaders who aren't afraid of experimentation. One thing I always valued in my teams was curiosity. The people who thrived weren't just trained, they were open. They asked, why is this happening? What does this mean for us? Can we try looking at it through a new lens? Upskilling is important, but culture is even more so. A curious culture absorbs changes more naturally.
Fully agree. That curiosity is super, super important. And, I think it's easy sometimes to say, I was having this discussion recently with someone that, hey, I don't want the tool to be telling me what to do. I think the mindset shift has to come that it's like, hey, I'm curious what result the tool will give me, but then how I can kind of augment that or pivot that along with my sort of human intuition and background knowledge to make better decisions. So I'm fully with you there.
Right, it's the combination of the two that's key.
Absolutely. So, I'll go to another piece, right? Again, we've talked a lot about these tools, the adoption, what works, what doesn't work, curiosity now. I'm curious, what do you think, or what you feel are some of those like time-tested principles for marketers or insights professionals, regardless of whatever the next wave? We're in last year was Gen AI, this year it's agents. But regardless of what the next thing is, what do you see as, those timeless principles that you got to be kept into consideration?
Yeah, and I said this on our prior episodes. I said it earlier today. Knowing your customer deeply, there's really no substitute for that. And it's really not just understanding them from a data perspective, but understanding them with empathy. Really try to understand what's motivating them, what's driving them. No question, that's number one in my mind. You also have to be able to tell clear stories because a good strategy is only as good as the ability to communicate it clearly to your audience. And then adapt with purpose. Don't chase the latest shiny object. Integrate and use what really is going to move the needle. So the key is that technology is going to change, but I don't think that these key principles are going to.
Very, very well said. That I like that. I think the customer, just to kind of recap what you said, it's the customer centricity, the storytelling, right? And that agility, right, to pivot are very, very critical, right, to different market conditions. And of course, the success, regardless of what technology or tools we're talking about.
Right.
Well, look, I think as I kind of come to some final comments on this whole series, it was really about trying to help make sure folks understand, what are some of these fundamentals, right? And then also what I would describe as like accelerators or enablers. And so hopefully, we've been able to touch on these throughout the series for our listeners. What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, well said, Gabe. And I really want to thank you for the conversation. It's been fun, quite frankly, but I think it's been a real pleasure to explore these ideas and these concepts with you and with the audience.
Well, and it's been a pleasure, and I really have enjoyed it as well. I want to thank again all the listeners that have turned in. Hopefully, this has sparked some good ideas, maybe challenged some assumptions, at least started to get people thinking in a different way. So. We look forward to the comments on feedback on this one. And Jim, I have a feeling I'll be seeing you more regularly these days. No AI is telling me that, but just some good old human intuition. So thank you so much. And any parting words from your side?
No, I just want to say thank you, and thanks to everyone who's listening. Take care.
Thanks all. Take care.